What are some of the more like common SEO mistakes?
A lot of these people don't own their websites and their assets, which is no good. Like, you never want to be in that situation.
What's one marketing avenue or idea that you think more law firms should be taking advantage of?
I'm going to give you a little bit of a hot take here. I think
Everything except the law will begin after a brief word from Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our virtual receptionist team.
I would absolutely, without question, recommend Answering Legal to every law firm. Not one law firm, but every law firm out there. I've gotten so much business as a result of hiring them. I knew that we were getting a lot of calls after hours. So I needed a company to answer those phone calls live and to get the name, number, because that's key information. All my cases are called back. Answering Legal is the best.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Answering Legal's Everything Except the Law podcast. I am your host, Nick Worker. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where we share expert advice on all the parts of running a law firm that attorneys weren't exactly trained for back in law school. Now, our guest for this episode is one of the leading voices at One SEO Digital Agency, a company that has spent over 15 years developing award-winning law firm marketing strategies. We were just talking about a new award that they won. With him today, we'll be covering topics such as SEO, paid advertising, and website design. If you're a longtime fan of the podcast, you've likely seen us dive into these topics before, but with the digital marketing world being ever evolving, we like to do these expert check-ins as frequently as possible. And our expert voice today is Bernie Ollila. Bernie, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Nick. I'm glad to be here. And thank you so much for nailing my last name on the first try. Terrific.
Well, we've met before. We worked together before, so
that's why you're the
I
best.
appreciate you. So can you catch our viewers up on your experience working in the legal marketing space?
Yeah, I've personally been here at One SEO for 10 years. The company's been around since 2009, as you mentioned, but we focus really heavily on helping attorneys reach their goals from both like a case standpoint and a revenue standpoint. It's more important for us to help them achieve those specific goals as opposed to beat them to death with like vanity metrics like impressions and clicks and all this other BS. We really want to have tangible results for our clients. That's the way we kind of approach this. So everything SEO, pay-per-click, local service ads, social media, web design development, video and photo production, really end to end for attorneys to help them achieve their goals online.
I feel like that's so important because like I have interacted with agencies myself, and there's always there's a staunch disconnect between, and this is something that I've gotten into in recent years, like you can have vanity metrics on your website, say like you drive a ton of traffic to the website. There's a ton of impressions, there's a ton of clicks, the click-through rate looks great, but like none of that traffic is turning into like real cases and like signed cases. It's all just like, and you can even measure form fills with this too, right? Like you get a bunch of form fill outs, but none of them are good cases. So I love talking to people like yourself who are really invested in like actual signed cases, delivering signed retainers. And then I'm sure you measure that from start to end.
Well, you have assisted conversions, so you can see when somebody first interacts with you and then see every touch point they have along the way, from that second time maybe they saw you on a social media ad, the third time maybe you hit them with another ad on YouTube or whatever it is, to be able to measure it. But yeah, the most important thing to think about is like, what kind of revenue generating activity am I measuring with my online marketing? And if the answer is I am not, or I don't know what that means, I think alarms should be going off in your head, because you got to really know what you're paying for.
Yeah, I started off, and like anybody, I was invested in like vanity metrics and like, look at my clicks. We're driving so much traffic to the website, but if that traffic isn't converting in like a positive way, it doesn't really mean anything. So I want to ask you, what are some of the recent Google updates, and there have been a few that have really caught your attention, and what are your thoughts on the overall state of Google search for law firms?
I'm going to give you a little bit of a hot take here. I think it's a lack of updates from where I'm sitting that's making it not challenging, but a little bit stagnant in the legal marketing space. We all know that everybody goes to Google for when they need to search for something, but there's only so many things Google's going to change, like organically, or with their Google guaranteed ads, which is now, it's pay to play. It's going to be just like PPC was. What's the problem is like a lack of opportunities there in the search space. So you really have to get creative and think about, all right, what are my other avenues here for success on the internet? One is like, there's a lot more stuff going on with AI in terms of like AI discovery. There is a slew of other paid advertising that you could do on not just Google, but like on, Bing and things like that, getting creative with social media. So you really have to think about, your data, what you have available, and focus your efforts there as opposed to relying on the same things from Google. Cause people will come to me now still and they'll say things like, SEO this or traffic that and rankings and all this stuff. And it's not really driving the business for you. And you're saying the same thing that you were in 2018 as opposed to, today. So getting creative and trying to figure out what else you can do is the most important thing right now.
So I think a lot of people have, or maybe like an outdated understanding of SEO, and so much I think has changed with the introduction of like AI assisted search. But like right away, when law firms come to your agency, what are some of the more like common SEO mistakes and like misunderstandings that they have about it?
The big one is always obviously tracking. We already touched on it, but that aside, like measuring like success aside, a lot of these people don't own their websites and their assets. So like maybe they're working with an agency or they hired somebody on Fiverr or whatever it is that has complete ownership and control over the website that they have, which is no good. Like you never want to be in that situation where you're leasing your website and you're tied to some company. You have to be able to make sure you can pick it up and walk away with it if you need to. The second thing is it's either a lack of investment or an overinvestment. Like I've met like solo attorneys that are spending 25 grand a month on Google ads and they're like a, $350,000 shop. And it's like, that's crazy. You shouldn't be spending that much money. And at the same time, I've met, firms that have been around for a long time that are looking to grow online, but, they're scared to spend a couple $1,000s on the internet. So it's really like one of those two things is typically what I always see. I can bet on it, bet whatever you want on it. It's either going to be a problem with like ownership of their assets or just like completely misguided investments on the internet.
One of the things I listen to a lot of legal podcasts in the space, just to like, that's how I get my information is I can put it on my earphones and like work on spreadsheets or whatever the heck I'm doing that day. And I think it was like 6 or 7 months ago, Lunch Hour Legal Marketing with Guy and Conrad Sam covered that Get Noticed, Get Found, it's Get Noticed, Get Found got acquired by Scorpion. And Conrad, as he does, went on this crazy tirade about how lawyers should own their website and their information and like all of their metrics. And I think, and maybe I'm being disparaging and I'm going to get some cease and desist and they're going to have to take this off of YouTube. But I think it's hard because it's very enticing, I think, for lawyers to just want to offload that, especially when somebody like a Scorpion or another marketing agency says like, we'll take care of all this for you. You're going to sit in our pool of all this data that we have, and we're going to use that to enhance your marketing. But like, you don't own any of that. And if you want to leave, you can't. Just is beyond, like, that's your business. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's where people go to find you is online. It's like if you owned a store and people came to your store and then somebody just took your store away, somebody Google's like dog bite attorney, and now they can't find you anymore because you signed a contract because you didn't want to pay for a website up front. You're going to have to pay for it no matter what. You can either pay for it today in money and own it completely, or you can like, lease it or let somebody else own it for you. And then you can pay double what it's going to be when you have to leave. And then you have to pay because you have to reinvest in your SEO because when you leave those companies, like it doesn't, not Scorpion, but like there's a lot of companies out there that do the wrong thing. If you're with somebody that owns your assets, you're going to get like files, which is basically like images of your website, which doesn't work. So you're going to have to redo your SEO. So once you take that down, the rankings go away. And that's like having toothpaste out of a tube. You can't put it back in once it's out. So decide if you want to pay for it now in cash or pay for it later in visibility and cash, and even more cash than you would probably have to pay for it right now. And even if it's not me or somebody else, I insist, if you're an attorney, you need to own your website. It should be built in WordPress, but no matter what, you have to own it completely.
Wise words. I want to ask you, because I think it's difficult and like it's not something that we learn, and SEO is not something that they teach at like a college. Like you can't major in SEO at like a university, but you can Google it, you can look online and all that. But like, I don't think a lot of people have a fundamental understanding of what an SEO game plan looks like. So can you break down what like a proper SEO game plan looks like in 2025?
Yeah, I could tell you the first thing is don't base it around blogs. Everybody thinks like blogs are going to drive the all your traffic and your results online with SEO. And SEO, not paid. It's organic. It's going to take a few months for it to work. But that aside, if somebody's doing a lot of blogs for you, if you have the idea that blogs are going to help you drive your presence online, you're mistaken. You have to focus on the core pages of your website, and you have to have a page for every service that you're doing. Is a great place to think about it fundamentally. So if you're a family lawyer, you have to have a general page for your family law, and you have to have one for divorce, alimony, separation, custody, whatever it might be. All the different services that you're providing to your community, you have to think about it in terms of like a page for each of those. And then you have to have a really good like Google My Business plan too, because that's, though it's not paid, you can buy ads there. We consider that part of your organic strategy, or direct, however you want to look at it. But you have to focus on getting reviews for yourself and posting to your Google My Business page constantly. And the same thing goes for like Apple Maps, Yelp, Bing Places, whatever it is. Those local directories, those local places people can find you, make sure you're visible there. But I would start with like move away from blogs, focus on the service level pages of your website. And that should get you, that should be in a nice spot. If your plan isn't based around those two things right now, I'd say it's time to reevaluate for sure.
So I was doing research today. I was looking at a bunch of law firm websites, and there's law firm websites that look like they were built on, it looks like Windows 98 from back in the day. And for anybody who's time stamping this is what's today, February 4th, 2025.
Yeah.
How much does like and I know it doesn't have a direct correlation, but it kind of does. How much does like design and user experience and user interface on a website contribute to like how well that site is going to perform from like all standpoints, from SEO, from like a paid advertising standpoint, for like conversions? How important is it?
Think about it like this. If you're going on a date, you could pick the person you're going on a date with up in a Corvette or a 95 Geo Prism. You know what I mean? You probably want to take the Corvette. You've already invested in your outfit for the night. You're going to spend money on dinner. You want to make sure that the experience for them is top notch. The same thing with your website. You're spending all this money on paid traffic, on SEO, whatever it is. Make sure when they get there, it's easy for them to kind of see that you are great. You know, show yourself off, have pictures of yourself. That's going to give a good experience for the user. But the most important thing is making sure it's impossible to not get in touch with you. Phone number, always visible and sticky. Always something to do when they scroll. If it's like a chat that comes up, or leave a review, or contact us now, learn more about our services, whatever it is. You should have something for them to do no matter where they are on the website. And that's going to help you drive the conversions. So the user experience is huge. It's like, you know, like we said, you're investing all these resources into sending people there. Make sure that they can contact you or learn more about what they're looking to learn more about very easily.
I want to let everybody know that this is completely unscripted, and that metaphor just flew off the top of Bernie's head about going on a date. I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to dive into this a little bit more just because, and this is my opinion, I think there's a huge place for SEO, and SEO can and does bring in new prospects to your website. But what I think drives a lot more is advertising. So I want to talk more about like pay-per-click advertising on all channels that you guys recommend. So for growing law practices, there's because it's so expensive, there's a lot of pressure to get it right. What tips do you have for law firms that are just getting started with advertising? Like, where should they be? How do they know that they're spending appropriately? And like, I really hope that people aren't doing this DIY without having like a fundamental understanding, but like, what should they be doing and what should they be looking out for?
It's a great question. I think when you're looking at doing like paid advertising as an attorney, if you're less than even like 500,000 a year, so like if you're solo or you have like one or two people, I would honestly focus all my resources on like a sick, like badass website and paid advertising on Google. And that's all I would do. I wouldn't even think about the SEO yet. I would try to drive cases to support the growth that I want to do in the future. When I can really invest in SEO, it's not a burden for me because good SEO does cost money, right? So if you're that size, I would say just focus solely on the paid side of it. Make sure you own your assets. Obviously, somebody that's experienced in Google Ads. But what you have to do is think about your ideal customer. Like who are they? Are they of a certain age? Are they in a certain income bracket? Like if you're in North Jersey in Bergen County, for example, which is a suburb of New York City, very affluent area, and you're doing family law, let's say, right, or you're doing corporate law, you're going to be targeting people that are in the top 10% of household income and that are likely over the age of 30. So I've identified my core audience right there. Those are the people that I usually serve and who I want. And your ads should reflect that because those are two demographics that you can pick in your Google ads. So go after people that you know can afford your service or are in your demographic right now. And the same goes for any other area of practice. Think about your person. Who are they? What are they like? And target them based on those attributes. Number two, and this is where people really spend a lot of money. I think it was like a year ago, I was talking to a personal injury attorney in Sacramento, California. It's like north of the Bay Area. I guess it kind of is the Bay Area. I'm not whatever, but it's still California and it's expensive. We looked at the cost for personal injury attorney keywords on Google. It was $916 a click. A click for a click, dude. I swear to God, like, and I was like, I don't even know if you should be going after general personal injury keywords. And he was like, I don't either. I had no idea. And I was like, that's why you're spending $8,000 a month. It's because you're all this on these generalized keywords. Focus on specific services. If you are doing personal injury, what kind of injury do you want? Is it worker stuff? Is it dog bites? Is it, I don't know, medical malpractice? Is it like slip and fall cases? Is it like the premises liability stuff? Whatever it is, you need to focus on those things specifically because there's always volume for it. People are always getting hurt. Just like people are always getting caught, with drunk driving charges. People are always getting divorced, right? Do this specific thing. I want more DUI cases in Burlington County. I want more child custody cases in Mishawaka, whatever it might be. That specific thing is what you should bid on. Never do generalized keywords unless you're like a mega firm with 50 attorneys and you can afford to just kind of dominate the market, be the big cat. But to summarize, I would say think about who your target demographic is and focus on very specific searches.
I would be very, very upset if one of my desired keywords on Google costed $960 per click.
60, but yeah, it doesn't matter at that point. Once you're north of 900, it's like whatever.
That's a wild cost per click. So we talked about this before, but I want to expand on it. So what if a law firm comes to you and they're generating a good amount of traffic to their website from, like a multi-channel approach, but they aren't seeing that many conversions from that traffic. And even more so, they're not like they're not qualified leads. They're not good cases. Where did your mind first go when thinking about the potential reasons why they're failing to get qualified leads or conversions?
Blogs. It's all blog traffic, I bet. Which is not the best for, like we said, driving leads right now. If they're not converting and there's people coming to the website, it's because they're probably very focused on blogs and things that don't matter. So usually when someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, I'm getting these reports, but they say we're doing great and then we're not getting any business. I'll look in their analytics in Google and and if anybody wants, I'll send you a one sheet or whatever it is. So you can do this yourself, but look at your Google Analytics and then look at your attributes and look at geography. And I bet you're going to see it's people from across the country coming to your site for whatever reason, So if they're not converting, it's going to be irrelevant traffic, and it's going to be because hopefully it's not your pay-per-click just messing up, but it's going to be likely organic traffic coming from places that you don't even serve.
What can you do to sort of combat that irrelevant traffic? Like how do lawyers sort of get more qualified leads while combating that erroneous traffic?
Yeah, I would shift my focus from a content generation standpoint from what you're doing, which is, like I said, more likely you're not going to be blogging or outbound blogging, whatever it is, or directories, and focus more internally on the website, the service level pages. So the things we talked about earlier, right? Like the individual services, focus on optimizing those and forget about blogging for a little while, because the site's going to be updated with the pages that you're doing. And that's why you're blogging anyways, to just show Google the site's getting updated. It's good if you want to be like an authority, fine. If you're Morgan & Morgan or some other giant mega firm and you just want that traffic for whatever reason, great. Chances are, if you listen to this, you're not. If you're working with me, you're probably not. So that's where you got to think about what's my end goal, and is my strategy really pushing me towards that, or am I just doing things because this is what people do and this is what I got sold?
So I remember, this is over 10 years ago now. Before I got into my current role, I was building law firm websites, just because I think 10 years ago, a lot of law firms didn't have a properly built WordPress website. Now it's not as common to see it, but it still is. And I just remember, I can't remember the name of the law firm, but it was one of those gigantic Celino and Barnes type law firms. And I was doing a lot of research at the time in order to get inspiration for how I wanted these websites to look and feel, and set up the proper buyer's journey and customer journey. And it was just such an outdated website. And I remember thinking, like, you guys, I see your TV commercials like late at night. I see billboards. Like if I go to the city and this is the website that you're driving traffic to. And so I want to ask you, what tips do you have for law firms on improving the user experience of their website?
I would say the number one thing is to get, like, if you have stock images there of like like it's a gavel or it's like the scales, just get that out of there and put your headshot in, picture your team, whatever it is, to kind of set that foundation of like, hey, I'm real. I'm not like everybody else. This is what I look like, or whatever it might be. The second thing is make it easy for them to navigate through that site. So don't have a bunch of stuff like just randomly placed on the website, and don't also have nothing there. Think about what you want. I want phone calls, right? I'm going to have my phone number visible. I want contact forms. I'm going to have to make sure there's a form constantly there. I can text people back, or my, office admin can have a chat bubble there for people to be able to chat and interact with. So the number one thing you can do to make your site more user friendly is make it easy to get in touch. The second thing you can do is show that you're show that you're unique, show yourself. You know what I mean? Make sure it's like the brand is like very visible and out front in front of people. And those two things are going to really carry you a long way.
So I didn't ask you this yet, but like, what's one marketing avenue or idea that you think more law firms should be taking advantage of that they're currently not?
I would say diversify. And by that, I mean, look into different paid advertising channels, and like keep doing your SEO and keep doing everything like that, but focus on the paid side of things to generate you leads immediately. Because a lot of times, attorneys want leads now, and they need leads now to reach whatever goal that they have. So I would do anything I could to focus on the paid side to generate leads immediately. And I would go after people based on their intent and who they are. So Google ads, local service ads, Bing ads is where I would get started.
Awesome. So if our audience wants to connect with you further, how can they do so?
You can email me at Bernie, BERNIE at oneseo.com, or you can call 215-946-1046 and just ask for me, and I'm happy to talk to you.
So Bernie, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. And thank you to all of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will be back with another episode of Everything Except the Law soon. Be sure to check out previous episodes of our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel. Links to everything covered in today's conversation can be found in the description of this episode, along with Bernie's email and the phone number. We hope to see you next time, everyone.